Peace, this Equality Fragrances coming to you from Prince George's County, Maryland. Welcome to the Cypher. Today, I'm gonna be giving you 3 fragrance alternatives to the more expensive fragrance, which is my favorite fragrance of all time, and that comes from the house of Boadicea, the Victorious, and that's Bleu Sapphire. In this video, we're gonna be discussing these 3 fragrances, how they smell, how close they are to Bleu Sapphire, and if it's worth going with those or saving up for Bleu Sapphire. We'll discuss it all. With that being said, let's talk about the fragrances. So what is Bleu Sapphire in the gist of it? What you get is a candied, honey, lemony citrus laid upon a bed of honey florals, contrasted by some herbal aromatic nuances with some supporting depth, which comes from the patchouli. As it starts to transition and move around, you start getting a little bit of indolic jasmine, add a bit of animalic faucets to it. But when it really comes down to the end of it, the oud starts to show up, and the oud patchouli combo creates this smooth, almost leathery, dry woody leather accord upon a bed of amber. That is what this fragrance is in a nutshell. The first fragrance I'm gonna be discussing is a discontinued fragrance. Now, the problem with discontinued fragrances are you're only gonna find them on eBay. The price is gonna be jacked up. That is a downside. But the fragrance I'm talking about comes from the house of Aramis, and this is Perfume Calligraphy. This is the only bottle it comes in. If you get a bottle like this is a fake. When I first was trying to buy this, I got sent this and disputed on eBay. If you get a bottle like this, it's a fake. Just know you have a fake. Anyway, let's talk about the scent or the characteristic of this fragrance. Now, in comparison to Bleu Sapphire, you do get that candied, bright lemon, citrus, spicy aromatic because it has that cardamom, it has that saffron blend also, but you're missing the herbal qualities within the opening, which can be a bad or a good thing depending on what you're looking for. What's really also missing is that lemony, waxy, yet honeyed floral component that you get from the marigold and the rose in Bleu Sapphire. You don't get that at all here. Now, you get somewhat of an ambery woody base, but you miss that leather faucet that the patchouli and oud combination in Bleu Sapphire gives you. Now, performance-wise in comparison, it's a non-comparison. Bleu Sapphire is a ballroom filler fragrance. This gives you good performance, good sillage. I'm not saying it's a weak performer. You'll get about 8 to 10 hours with this. You will. But it's just not the type of performer Bleu Sapphire is, as well as you don't keep that opening as long as Bleu Sapphire. Bleu Sapphire has like a 3 to 4 hour opening that it holds. This does not. It goes into the dry down relatively quick. So if you own this fragrance, is it somewhat redundant? Yes and no. I only think this is about 60% Bleu Sapphire. But again, it's worth mentioning, and that's Perfume Calligraphy by Aramis. The last 2 fragrances I'm going to discuss them together. And the first fragrance I'll be discussing is just called Al Qurashi Blend. Look at this fragrance. This bottle is heavy. The presentation is impeccable. The other one is called Al Qurashi Blend Special Edition. And that comes like this. This is rather simplistic, rose gold top with the emblem on the top of it. Now you're thinking to yourself, before you even talk about Bleu Sapphire, what's the differences between the two, and are there differences? The answer to your question is yes, there are differences. Very slight, but there are differences. Now, before I even go into those differences, if you walked into a room wearing this and you walk into a room wearing this, would I be able to tell the difference smelling it in the air? No, I wouldn't. But smelling them side by side, this has more of a citrus, bergamot, fruity opening. And this is more of a sweet, tart, candied lemon. So it's a little bit closer to Bleu Sapphire. And both have that indolic jasmine, slightly fleshy, with that dry, woody, ambery base. So performance isn't an issue with neither one of these two fragrances. I also get a slight different warm spice with the opening here that I don't get in the regular Al Qurashi blend. I don't know if cinnamon, anise, or something is used here, where in the other one I feel like I'm getting more cardamom and the saffron in that one. I could be wrong. Now, how do they compare to Blue Sapphire? Great question as well. With Blue Sapphire, it just has more depth. These fragrances are missing three key elements that Blue Sapphire has. It's missing the herbaceous opening with the candied lemon citruses. It's missing that honeyed floral element that comes from the rose and magnolia in Blue Sapphire. It's missing it. When you start getting into the dry down as it transitions, it's also missing that almost leather accord that I get from Blue Sapphire that I don't get in these two fragrances. With all of that said, if you walked into a room wearing these, I'm going to approach you and say, you're wearing my favorite fragrance of all time. You're wearing Blue Sapphire. And you're going to say, no, my friend, I'm wearing Qurashi blend. You can't tell. If I put them side by side on my hand, one of these two on one hand and Blue Sapphire on the other hand, can I tell? Yes, I can. Now, is it worth you getting Blue Sapphire or getting one of these? I don't know. I'm not your financial advisor. But I looked on the website. This is going for $80. I've seen it, or about $90. I've seen this as low as $60 at one point because they have sales all the time. This one with the superior build quality and presentation is going for $180. Now, this is a 90 ml. On their website, it says 150 ml. That is a lot of juice for that price. I'll leave a link in the description for both of these fragrances. Now, for me, I got the Blue Sapphire. Why? Because I can tell the difference. And some people will make that choice. And I give you an example of why. As somebody who's owned a Chevy Tahoe, and I've also owned a Cadillac Escalade, I know the difference between the two, not just visually, and I'm willing to pay the $30,000 to $40,000 more to get it. Now, if I have it at the time when I'm looking for that type of vehicle. If you have never owned any one of those vehicles, you would walk into the dealership, test drive both vehicles, and you would leave there and say, I don't know why anybody's spending that much money for an Escalade. They're the same vehicle. Sure, you're not necessarily wrong. They're both from GMC. They both set on the same chassis. They both use gas. They both use V8 engines, third row seats. Yes, absolutely. The essence of what both of these vehicles are identical. But there's slightly different nuances from the infotainment system and everything else you get that why people would choose an Escalade. And that's the same reason why I personally chose to get Blue Sapphire, although I had these first. You don't have to make that decision, but I'm telling you why I made that decision. With that being said, if you want to know my full review and my thoughts on Blue Sapphire, click the video coming up next, and I'm going to leave you the way I greeted you, and that's in universal language of peace.